Hey guys, so this is the album we're going to be making today, and just as per your request, I'm going to do a quick walkthrough so you can see what you're making. This album has a 2-inch spine and it's about a 6 by 5, I want to say roughly. Let's check it out. Yeah, that's about five and a smidgen, 5.5. So, sorry, it's actually 5.5 by 6. And so it's a little cute little mini, not too mini, but mini enough. It stands up very nicely, so you can put this out on your mantle or wherever you want to put it for holidays. And then it's a really simple little design. So it just opens up into a trifold. And so we've got a waterfall on the left with four cards. And then this centerpiece is a big accordion section. So let me just take you through what that will look like when it's sort of when you're going through it, rather, you know what I'm saying here. So this just flips open. We've got a pocket page here, another pocket page, and then we can go the other way. A little belly band over here, place for messages or more photos. So that's it. That's what we're creating today. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so for this project, we're going to use this 6x6 paper pad. You can use any 6x6 paper pad, but for this project, I'm using Gnome for Christmas, which is from, I think, 2023 Christmas, because I've had this hanging out for a bit, and it's by Echo Park. So that's the paper pad I'm using for this project. And then apart from that, after you choose your own colored, your own patterned paper, you're going to need about 2 to 3 sheets of black cardstock in 12 by 12 size. And this is 80 pound, okay? So that's just your regular weight of cardstock, nothing special there. And then you're going to need about 6 sheets of this craft cardstock, also nothing special, 80 pounds, but you will need 6 sheets for the entire album base. Okay, apart from that, the other things I use are double-sided tape. And this one, it's not quite 1/2 inch size. It's about, I don't know, I always forget the actual. It's just under 1/2 inch, but I'm going to say it's 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 7 inch or something like that. No, that doesn't make sense. 4, 3/8 of an inch. Yes, about 3/8 of an inch, something like that. It's just shy of 1/2 inch because you do need it where you're taping this down on 1/2 inch pieces. You don't want it to go completely edge to edge. So that's the size that I use. And then I use this art glitter glue. You can use any wet adhesive that you like, but this is my favorite. And then optional things for you to include. You can use a corner punch to make your corners rounded, completely up to you. And also, if you want to ink the edges, then have an ink handy. I may or may not do that when we get to decorating, but that's another option, is to ink the edges of the project. Okay, so I did get some feedback around sharing how I choose my patterned papers and decorate the album itself. So I'm going to go and talk about that for a minute right from the start. So this Gnome for Christmas, oh, an extra piece from another kit is tucked in there. It's really cute, and what I usually do is I just kind of search through the pad for patterns that I like, that I want to make sure are going to be included in prominent places. So the first thing I do is figure out, well, what do I want to use for the cover? So in this case, and I've already marked them out, I really am loving this little snowflake on wood grain background pattern. So this is what I'm going to go for the cover. So I'm going to pull that one out, and I like to set these aside so that I don't end up accidentally using them while I'm decorating the album. So there's that one, and then, so I'm going to take out both of them because I will need them both. Okay, and then I also loved, if I can find it, I mean, I did mark these pages, but of course what? Now I can't find them. There's another wood grain, here it is, with the little car with the tree on it. So I love this, so I'm going to include this too. And I'm going to take both of those sheets out and set them aside. I don't think I need both of these because I have an idea where it's going, but I don't want to mess up and use this paper for something else because I definitely want it for the cover. The other thing is I want to select my waterfall pages. So I know I'm using the 3x4 cards, so I'm just going to take those right out as well. And you'll notice if you're using this paper, we've got some smaller cards at the top These are just 2x3s, so I'm sure I'll end up using those. But anyway, I want to set these aside and make sure that I don't use them in any other part of the decorating, okay? So that's sort of my thought process, how I start when I flip through a pad. And actually, depending on what's in the pad, I get ideas for what the album design will ultimately be. Okay, so I'm just going to put these off to the side and we can get started on the base cutting. So you will also need, of course, your scoreboard and your paper trimmer. So I'm using this one. I'm not endorsing it. I just like it. It's from Stampin' Up. It has a trimmer and it has a scoring blade on it as well. It can get tricky if you get mixed up and forget which one is which. So I have on occasion cut right through my paper, but we're not going to do that today. And if we do, I will edit out, which is the beauty of video. So let's just get started. Just a couple of other notes I'm going to tell you about. Typically, when I'm designing, I do out all my measurements and everything. And then as I'm actually constructing the album, I cut and paste the pieces together so I don't put them aside. If you watch my videos, you've heard this preamble before. If you're new to my videos, you'll see that a lot of designers and creators will cut everything first and then label it and then bring it back to stick it all together. That's cool, but that's just not how I like to do it. I just like to cut and go, and that way it's kind of done and one and done and out of the way. So that's the first thing. The other thing is how I do my measurements. So I just want to note that I will always read you my measurements as height by width. And that is important as we get into where to score things, because you do want to know which way is the paper directionally facing in the album. So I'll always tell you how tall it is by how wide it is when you hear my measurements. Okay, so for example, if I say it's 5 by 6, then it's 5 inches tall and 6 inches wide. Okay, so that's it. So I'm going to get started right away in the cutting. So here is my blade. This is my scoring blade. I'm actually going to reverse them because I'm using my scoring blade more often. So I'm just going to go ahead and pop that out without slicing my finger off, which I almost did. Oh gosh, okay. So I'll slide this one up here. Pop that back in. Okay, so let's start with the outside cover. So I'm just going to make sure that my camera is capturing everything that you need to see. Sorry, 1 second. Okay, there we go. All right, so let's get started with the first piece. So we're going to cut out the pieces for the cover first. So you're going to need 3 pieces, the left side, the middle, and the right side. So let's cut out the left side. So all the pieces are 6 inches tall. So I'm just going to cut this in half first. Okay. Okay, and so there's my 6-inch piece. So the left side is going to be cut down to 6 3/8. So let's see. Of course, it's right where this thing splits is my 3/8 mark. But anyways, okay, so there's my left side. And this is the way it faces. So it's 6 inches tall. And I'm going to score this at 1/2 inch and 2 3/8 of an inch. So now I'm just going to get my blade out of the way. So I'm going to move this over to the 1/2 inch mark. Okay, and if you're using your scoreboard or something like this, it's the long part, the 6 3/8 is along the edge of the scoreboard, and we're cutting vertically. So you're running the 6 3/8 along the edge. So I'm scoring at 1/2 inch. And then at 2 3/8 of an inch. Okay, 2 3/8 is just before the halfway mark, in case you are wondering. Okay, so this is now my left side, and if I fold it over, and if you have a bone folder, now is a good time to use it, wherever mine went, and we're not sure, but I will find it before, oh, here it is. So you want to just burnish that lightly, because this is now the left front cover and the spine, okay? So we're having a 2-inch spine. So you can set that to the side. And now let's cut down the middle piece, which is going to be 6 by 5.5. So we cut out this 6-inch piece, and the remaining from this part should actually be 6 by 5.5. Okay, so that is our centerpiece, and it will go here like that. And now we can cut out the right hand side. So for the right hand side, you're going to cut 6 by 7. So this was already 6 inches tall, so I can cut this down to 7. Okay, and now for scoring purposes, we are going to score at 4.5 and 6.5. Okay, so we'll score 4.5 and 6.5. Great. Okay, now we'll get this trimmer to the side. And, this is probably not what we want to keep on there. All right, so I'm just going to burnish this edge. Now my craft cardstock, and I just take a look at yours too, it's actually a different shade on the other side, which is totally fine. But just make sure that when you're assembling, if yours is like this too, that you put all the light, you put the light colors together. Okay, so left side is the smaller piece, right side is the bigger piece, and then we're going to stick this in the center like so. So the way we're going to assemble, let's do the left side first. So grab your double-sided tape and then apply your tape to this 1/2 inch piece that you scored. Do not cover the score line, okay? Do not cover the score line. Make sure that the score line is visible. This is why I use this shorter tape. Okay, and since the tape is on my arm, I'm going to do the same thing with the other side. Okay, there we go. All right, and now let's stick these together. So what I usually do is just lift up the corner because, oops, that's not stuck down very well. So I'm skipping some stuff because I'm going fast because I don't want you guys to have to watch a 2-hour video to make this little thing. But you should burnish your tape down so that it sticks really well, okay? I just have a bit hanging off because I was messily ripping it. So you can just tuck that under. And now I'm going to just line this paper up on top. And I want to see the score line still because I want it to fold easily. And then once everything's lined up, just pull your tape right out. Okay. And same now with the other side. So I'll just tuck that corner back. The nice thing about this little album is it comes together really quickly if you want to make a quick gift for a teacher or the mailman, if you still have one. I don't know, up here. We don't have a mailman anymore. I mean, we do, but he doesn't deliver door to door. He delivers it in a central mailbox and we go and get it. And right now they're on strike, so we're not getting anything. Okay, so I'm just making sure it's lined up, and I'm noticing something, and I'll talk to you about that in a second, but let's line it up. Pull this out. Okay, now I'm being super picky, but sometimes when you're cutting, you could be slightly off, and I see here, I need to trim this piece off because I don't like it. So I always sort of double check my work as I go. So now that I've noticed that, I'm going to just stick this in the trimmer. You can cut it off by hand, whatever works for you. But I'm going to just tuck this into the paper trimmer and take that sort of sliver off because it's just there. Okay, so anytime you're working with paper, always double check. It's not a big deal. It's easy to fix. It's easier to fix early than later. Even if it's later, you can still fix it, but I always take a look. Okay, so that's the base of the album, and it's going to close like that. You can also make it close like this, whatever is your preference, but I'm going to close it like this because, in fact, if we take a look here, let me see. That's about 2. Yes. Okay. So it's very microscopic. It's about 1/8 of an inch. This side's a little bit, this side of the spine is slightly smaller than this side of the spine, and that's because when we fold it up, I just want it to sit, I want this to have a little bit of space here, okay? In case I want to put something on here, in case I put something here, it will not sit flat. So I just created sort of a very minuscule, a very minuscule amount smaller than this side, okay? So it's hardly noticeable. But anyways, okay, we don't need to focus on that. Let's put this aside now that we've finished that piece. Bring back your paper trimmer and let's start cutting the center, which is the accordion folders. So the accordion pages, you're going to need to cut out 6 of these, and they're going to be 5 3/4 tall by 10 3/4 wide. Okay, so I'm going to first cut down my sheet 5 3/4. Okay, there's my first one, 5 3/4. And because this paper is not too thick, you can just kind of stack it 2 at a time and cut down to 10 3/4. Okay, so just put those there. Let's cut the next set. So it's actually easier, I think, if I cut it the 10 3/4 first in this case, just because both pieces need that cut off the end, so we don't have to do the stacking. So now I can turn it and measure it 5 3/4. Anyway, whichever way you want to do it, it's 5 3/4 by 10 3/4. Okay, so there's 2. And comes number 3. One, 2. Okay, now very easy. These are just going to be scored at 5 1/4 and 5 1/2. So each one of these you will score at 5 1/4 and 5 1/2. So you're making a 1/4 inch spine. Okay, so 5 1/4 and 5 1/2. So when you fold it, and I keep losing my bone folder. Okay, so when you fold it, just burnish it down lightly and then fold on the other score line. Okay, so that's what you're going to end up with. So both pieces, once you fold it and create your little 1/4 inch spine, the front and the back are exactly the same size. Okay? So let's do that with all of the pieces. I'm just going to put that over here. So again, we are scoring at 5 1/4. And 5 1/2. Again, fold, burnish, burnish. And I'm going to do the other 4 off camera, so you can go ahead and do them. Just pause the video here and do them, or actually I'm just going to keep doing them. Never mind. Sometimes I go and turn off the camera. If there's sort of very repetitive tasks that I need to do, I will pause the video and then let you guys kind of do them in your time. But I'm gonna keep going. They're actually pretty quick to do, so I'll just keep going. And if you're following along in the video, we can just do it together. You can also pause and fast forward about a minute, and then we'll be at the next part, which is gluing these together. So I always find during the holidays that I like to find like quick little albums to make because it's such a busy time of year. And I was kind of looking at my album collection, and even though I love Christmas and I love the holidays, it's always when I have my most simple pieces. And then I find that in the summer or in the fall is where I have a little bit more crafting time. In the spring mostly. Spring and fall, I would say I have the most crafting time because, of course, there's not as much outdoor time. And that's when I notice my albums get a little more elaborate. But anyways, I think this is perfect for this time of year. So now we have these 6 pieces and we're going to stick them together. So let's bring them back. And the way these are going to get stuck together is back to back. Okay, so let's take the first one. So have this sort of on your table with the left side is the side that opens, and then grab your second one and you're just going to be stacking them like this. Okay, because you're making this accordion shape, or you can stack them like this. I don't really care. Notice something, because this is craft paper that's different colors on both sides, you're going to get a little bit of variation, let's say, in your base page because of the way that we stick it down into the album. We might actually stick it this way so we don't see that. Yes, I think that's what we're going to do. I'm thinking, guys, because I don't like these different colored craft papers showing. Yes, okay, this is what we're going to do. Okay, I don't know if this is your issue or not, but in case it is and you don't like the other side, take the first piece. This is the piece that will be glued to the base of the album back here, okay? Take this one and turn it so that the ugly colored side, this side that you like least, is facing out, okay? And then we're going to take, yes, this is going to work, I think. Is it going to work? Oh boy. You know what? I don't think it makes a difference. I don't think I can make this work. I'm just trying to figure out how can I always cover these pieces and still make it an accordion. Oh, no, I do think it's going to work. I'll be fine. Hang on. I'm thinking about it. Yes. Okay, it is going to work. Okay, so we'll take the ugly side and then we're going to stick ugly to ugly. Okay, so the way this goes is if your opening is onto the right, then you get your next piece like this. Make sure that now you're sticking the left-hand side to the top of the piece that's on your table. So like this, okay? So we're going to put glue here, and then this will go on top. And you can use glue or double-sided tape. I'm just going to go with glue because we're moving a little bit quickly here for the purposes of the video, and tape will take longer. Sometimes I just fold this down because I want it to be flat for sticking, but I'm only going up to the score line. This is the spine, remember. So we're just going to leave the spine alone. So I'm just going to get glue all around, close to the edge as I can, in the center, and then just line this up on top. So I'm just trying to think, what did I say we were doing? Yes, ugly to ugly, if you have my situation. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. And just keep going along your merry way and don't worry about which way the paper faces. So, but I'm doing this so that I have the same color of cardstock facing me throughout. The spine will look be the other side, but that's okay. Okay, so there's one. I'm just gonna, if you have a brayer, you can use it here too. But I just want to make sure this is nice and stuck down. Okay, so there's number one. And now I'm going to grab my next piece. And this one, open it up. And I'm going to stick it to this last square like this. Okay, so your new piece goes onto the bottom and we stick it on. Like that. So that this, yes. Always sticking ugly side to ugly side is what we're doing. So again, if you don't have this issue, then that's great. And you don't have to worry about anything that I'm saying. Just stick them together so they create an accordion and you'll be fine. Okay, so I just noticed, sorry guys, I just noticed this one is ripping and I don't like that. So I'm gonna put that to the side. I will cut another one. So that is just a good warning. Don't burnish it too hard. If it's quite a lighter cardstock, so maybe you don't need to burnish at all and you can just use your finger, because clearly I went a little too far there. Okay, so we're gonna stick this down here. I'm going up to the score line. And the reason I'm folding this over is I can make sure that it's even all the way around. Okay, so I'm going to keep this open. Next one will go here. Now, here is an idea for you to think about. So I am thinking, hey, one of these could probably be a pocket page, and I would like the pocket to be at the top. So in fact, I'm only going to put glue on these 3 sides in this case, okay? So you can make all of your pages pocket pages, but I'm going to probably do 1 or 2, and here's sort of the first one I will do as a pocket. Okay, so I've only put the glue on the 3 sides, and just make sure that's burnished down. And now I can say with my pen, I just want to put a P on here. Maybe a pen that works. I'm going to put a P on here because this is my pocket page. I don't want to forget, because I am going to cut a little tab out of the top, I think. Okay, and this one, and I didn't forget, we have to cut one more. Okay, so this will just be a regular page, so we'll just put the glue all the way around that. Okay, and I need to cut one more because of my situation, so I will do that. And then we can stick the next one on and it will be a pocket page too. So let me just quickly cut another piece for myself. Okay, I'm going to make this one a pocket page as well. So I'm just trying to quickly not burnish it too hard so I don't go and do the same thing I just did. Okay, so I'm just going to fold it. I'll just use my fingers. Actually, I want a little help, but very lightly burnishing, okay? Okay, and so this then is going to be also a pocket page. So I'm going to put glue on the ugly side, only on 3 sides. And stick that down. Now I'm going to say it again. If you don't have an ugly side, then it doesn't matter. Just make sure that you make it accordion style, and if you make a mistake, you can always just fold your paper the other way. In this case, I just don't want a lot of that to be showing. Okay, so there we go. So let's fold it up. Okay. I was going to say we'll stick it this way, but we can't. Okay, so here's how it looks once you've got all your pieces cut. So it's like a W and a half W, okay? But you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 panels once it's all glued together. And now I know which are my pocket pages, so I'm going to put a notch in there. Let's see, I've got a notch you can use a circle punch. I have this notch punch, so I'm going to use that. So the way I'm going to do it is I need to find my pocket pages. And I just want to mark out the center. So I am using this mat that actually has measurements on it. So I can more or less, I can see the center. So the center is about here. Okay. So I want my notch to be in the center, so I'm just going to mark it out and just slide this up. So there's a pocket page, and then we made the first page, or rather the second page is also a pocket page, so same thing. Just sort of center your paper, find the middle. I am definitely eyeballing it, but you can certainly go ahead and measure and mark it out. But you do want the notch to be more or less in the center. Okay, whew, there we go. All right, so there's my notches out, and now I'm going to fold this back up and bring my album back and put it in right in the center here. So it's a little bit smaller than the back, because I want space around it for it to have some movement. You don't want to have it right at the edge. Like, you don't want this to be the same size as the base. You need it to be a little bit smaller. So I'm just going to, this is the side I'm sticking down. Okay, so just want to show you, when you stick it down, you should end up with the front cover with the opening facing to the right. Okay. Okay. So this is what I'm sticking down right here, this way, okay? So I'm going to put the glue or my tape on this side. Don't put it here because this is bigger, as we just talked about. So I'm just going to get my tape down here. And here. And I'll put a strip in the middle. And then I'm going to use some glue, these other parts, just to strengthen it up and add some extra excitement. So let me just take these off first. Okay. And then grab your glue and just all right, now I'm just going to flip this open, and I'm going to center it on the base. So probably best to open it right up so you can see what you're doing. Okay, and you're going to have about 1/8 of an inch all around. Okay. There we go. So this is where you're at so far. And I think this is very cute. Very, very cute so far. Okay, and you'll see, you might feel like, oh my gosh, 2-inch spine is kind of big. But once you start filling this up, it will expand a bit. And, you know, you don't want to run out of space. So it is a bit generous, but I'm going to still stick with that size. As far as I'm concerned, that's the size we're doing today. If you want it smaller, you can make it a little bit smaller, but I think this works for what I'm trying to do. This side now gets a waterfall treatment. So let's cut out the pieces for that. So I'm going to put this over here, bring back my trusty blade and scoring board, and we're going to cut out 4 pieces and just, you know, go through your scraps here. I have a couple that I can use. So we're going to cut out 4 pieces, and they're going to be 4 3/4 by 3 1/4. Okay, so let's go ahead and cut those out. 4 3/4, 4 3/4 by 3 1/4. So this one looks like it was almost right. 3 1/4. So there's one. So let's make 4 of these. Okay, and once you cut out those pieces, you should have your 4 cards. You are going to score them along here. So your long side will be along the edge of your scoreboard, and you're going to score all of these at 1/2 inch. So not too hard. And then just fold that over. So do all 4 of these at 1/2 inch. 2, 3, and 4. Great. Okay, let's set those aside. So let's just bring the album back for a second. So they're going to be on this left side like this. Okay, and I'm looking at the fact that there's quite a bit of background here, and so I want to cover that with my patterned paper, but I'm doing layers. So anyway, when we start to decorate, we're going to probably matte most of this in black and then the patterned paper on top. So before I put these on, I want to make sure I cover this up with my black. So let's just grab a piece of black cardstock. So this is before we install the waterfall. Okay, and now I have to improvise a bit, but this piece, I want a 1/8 trim all around, and this piece is 4 inches by 6 inches, right? Okay, so I'm going to cut my mat at 3 3/4 by 5 3/4. Okay. 3 3/4 by 5 3/4, and that should give me the right size mat for this piece. So let's bring this all back. So I want to mat this down before I put my waterfall on top, and I'm probably not going to put another piece of patterned paper on top of this because the waterfall pieces will have their own pattern on them, so we don't need to do that. You can. If you do, then just cut another piece of your patterned cardstock and a piece that's 1/4 inch smaller than this one all around, and you can mat it on top. So that is up to you, but I'm going to leave it with just the black. Okay, love it. Love, love it. All right, now let's install our waterfall, which is very easy. So all your pieces, you're going to put your double-sided tape across this top part where you had your score line. So let's do that together. So right across the top. Okay. And now we have to install these. So it's pretty easy to put them in. I'm going to go, so I like some symmetry. I need to make sure that I don't put them too high or too low. Let's see. So I'm going to just stack them up temporarily to make sure that they're not going to be hanging out. And this will tell me how high I need to put the first one. So it looks like I need to put it all the way up here to the top. Okay, so I'm going to just peel off the back. And so the placement of the first one is possibly the most critical placement. So what I like to do is just grab my ruler. So I'm going to put this down so I know it's straight, and then I can get my ruler. Actually, I don't think I need the ruler right now because in this case, we're going right up to the edge of the black. So all you really want to do is make sure that you are centering it edge to edge this way. So it's about 1/4 inch, and then I'm going right up to the black cardstock, right up to the top. good. Press that down. Okay, so there's my first one. Okay, so now to install the second one, all you're going to do is butt it up against this piece. And you're going to always kind of fold down and check that everything is aligned on the sides, because you don't want, you know, this kind of thing going on. So let's take the backing off piece number 2, and now only lift a corner, okay, because I do not want to commit, because I have to check. So I'm lining this up here. Looks good on the sides, but the true test is when I fold this down, and I did need to nudge it a tiny bit so everything lines up, and then gently pull your paper out. Okay, 2. And now you're just going to do this exact same thing with the other 2 pieces. Again, you'll line that up. Now, okay, I'm noticing this is going a little bit longer than I want it to. So I'm going to nudge it up so that the bottom of it only goes to the edge of my black cardstock, which means you're going to be on, a little slightly on top of this piece here, which is totally fine. I don't want it hanging out off past the black cardstock. Okay, so there's some tape here. I'm just tucking it under so we don't have any sticky stuff. There we go. Okay, so there's our little waterfall on this side. Okay, so that will go. And you can see how this will start to fill up the album, right? So that's what I meant about not worrying about your 2-inch spine yet. Okay? And this will tuck under, which is why this side is ever so slightly bigger. I don't even know if it was worth mentioning because it's so minuscule, the difference. I'm not sure about that. Anyway. Okay, so guys, we are done actually making the base of this album. I'm so excited. Now we can spend the rest of our time doing our decorating. So first thing I'm going to do is bring out my papers that I put aside, and we'll start with the waterfall. So I've got these cards here. I'm going to cut these out. So now remember, these were measured at 3 1/4 by 4 1/4, 4 3/4. So I've got enough to do a 1/8 of an inch around, but I want to mat these with black first. So first thing I'm going to do is cut out some black mats for here. So let me put that aside. Grab this, and now I'm going to cut out 4 pieces that are 4 by 3. Okay? So this will be my mat. So there's one. How wide is this? I'm trying to figure out the most efficient use of this paper. Okay, so 4. Oops. Ugh. Anyways, 4 by 3. I just cut a square out. I can probably use that for something later. Okay, so those are my mats, and now I can cut out my pieces of patterned paper that I'm going to use. So these actually, so they are 4 by 3, but I want them to be edged by the mat. So I'm going to need to cut them down a little bit. So I'm going to cut a 1/4 inch off the top and one side, or you can do 1/8 of an inch all around. It's up to you how much you want to fuss with it. If you're insisting that this still has to be perfectly in the center, then do 1/8 all around. I am going to do a 1/4 off the top And I'm going to do, I think I'm going to do an 1/8 from each side. So that keeps it in the center horizontally, and vertically, I don't think you can really tell. Okay, so that's what you need to cut out. Okay, so 1/4 from the top or the bottom, and then an 1/8 from each side. I just like that if you do this, it stands out a little more. So in this case, I see I'm just going to cut them down so that I've already got the 1/4 off the top. And there's my 1/8. Okay. All right, put those to the side. Let's take all of this down here out of the way. Okay, and let's put this together. So this is where you could use your inking if you like. I'm not going to ink these up. I'm just going to glue them on. So go ahead and glue these together. And I'm showing you, normally I go and I decorate the album and then I show you the finished product. But like I said, I did get some feedback from people who said they'd be interested in watching through and maybe decorating along with me. So that's what is happening now. We're decorating the album together. And my whole kind of thought process that goes with it in choosing the papers, and how actually it's the papers that are kind of dictating the design for me. Okay, I like to use glue for this part just because I can, if I need to shift stuff around, I can. Okay. Looking good. Oop. I smooshed it in the wrong way. Go. So I also am going to use ribbon, which I don't think I included that when I started talking. So we're going to use ribbon. It's optional, which is probably why I forgot to tell you about it. But in the walkthrough, you'll notice that we had this whole thing enclosed with ribbon. So I'm going to show you how to do that next. But in the meantime, let's put these cards down. So if you're using this one, this particular paper, you can decide which one you want on the top. I think I'm either going to go with, oh my gosh, I don't know. Maybe this Santa Claus is coming to town. Yeah, I'm going to go with this one on top. So now you can just stick these into the album. And again, look how beautiful this looks. You have your black cardstock, and then the black is sitting on top of the craft, so it stands out, and then your patterned paper right on top. And I just chose craft for this one because it has a lot of, the paper has a lot of brown tones in it, so I thought it would pick that up nicely. Okay, so next I'm putting down the card with the green background, and I'll tell you why, because I don't want the two greens next to each other. So this is next. I will put the white, and then the other green will go last, so that when it's closed, I don't have same colors together. Not that it matters. You don't need to do that, but just telling you about my sort of eye on when I'm choosing papers and why I'm doing it the way I am. There's actually a method to my madness. Now, the other side of this waterfall, this side, you can either put down some white mats there for your photos, or you can leave them plain. I'm going to leave them plain for now, and when I go to add my photos in, I can put the white mats. But look how sweet that is. Okay, later on, we're going to also put some patterned paper in here. but I leave this till the end because I don't know what I'm going to have left over, and this can just be from scraps, okay? So there's how it's coming together so far. But now we need to go and put our ribbon in and make sure that we can tie this album shut. And the ribbon is just going to be coming out of the sides and tying up the front. Or you can actually run it around the back too, depending on how much ribbon you have. But I find it's sturdy enough that we can just put it on the sides, and then it'll sort of come out here and we'll tie a bow. So that means that we actually have to get our cardstock down on the sides and on the front. So let's bring back our paper trimmer and grab your black cardstock, because you're going to have to cut some pieces now for the sides. So this album is 6 inches. So what I'm going to cut is a 5 3/4, 2 pieces that are 5 3/4 by 1 3/4. Okay, so 5 3/4 by 1 3/4. So 2 pieces of that. Let's just do the spine first, okay? So those are going to go here. Now I'm going to use some patterned paper to cover these up. So choose the pattern you like. Now remember, I'm using this car, so I think I'm going to use the car on both sides of the spine. So for your matting, this is going to measure 5 1/2 by 1 1/2. So 2 pieces, 5 1/2 by 1 1/2. Okay. So I'm cutting my 1 1/2 first because I don't want to cut off too much from the top, because I don't want to cut the whole piece across the top. So anyways, 1 1/2 by 5 1/2. And that will match on here beautifully. Okay, and one more. Okay, so let's mat these and stick them on. So let's put our patterned paper down first. Okay, looks good. And once you've done that, go and choose your ribbon. So if you're going to tie this up with ribbon like I did, now is the time that you will need to grab your ribbon. There we go. All right, so we've got these 2 pieces ready, and now we need our ribbon. Okay, so I am using black ribbon, and I have a piece that's about 40 inches, and I'm going to actually wrap it around the back of the album too, and it will definitely give me enough to tie a bow. So what I like to do is just kind of figure out where I need to put the bow so that I can make sure I've got enough ribbon coming out of the side, because it's over here, so it's not in the center. So I probably need to tie the bow on top just to kind of see where the bow will sit and slide it over, and that will tell you where to stick your ribbon so that you have enough length on one side or the other. Alternately, you can just cut extra, and when you put it together, just cut off the excess from the ends, but it's kind of the way that I do it. So that's where I want my ribbon to go. So I'm just gonna put that here. I'm just going to put this piece of paper so I can remember where my album needs to sit, because I have to lift it up for a second. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some glue down on the back of this ribbon, and this is going to be hidden underneath the patterned paper, so you're not going to see that, okay? So I'm going to glue it onto the back first, like this, in the center. Okay, just gonna press that down. And now I want the ribbon to come up the side and over here. All right, so we'll get some more glue. Shit. Okay, so just keep kind of going with your ribbon, sticking it down. Now, oops, I want it along here. And again, this is all going to get covered with patterned paper. So you don't really have to worry. It's not going to budge once you cover it with your patterned paper. But you do need to put your ribbon down first. Okay, so there I've got my ribbon on this side. And now I'll just come over here. Fold, get these guys out of the way. Okay. And I'm just going to put a line of glue right across. And then fold my ribbon over there. Okay, so that's easy. Now get your mats back that we cut out and let's stick them down onto the spine. So, and I love it because you can see the ribbon coming out from the sides. It's really pretty. So these I'm going to also bring in some double-sided tape, and I'm going to use both double-sided tape and glue. So I'm just going to run my double-sided tape down the two edges and I'll put glue in the center. Okay. So I make sure I'm on camera. Okay, and then grab my glue down the center. And just lay this right on top of your spine, right over the ribbon. There we go. Okay, so now you can see how sturdy that's going to hang on. And now we can do the other spine. I'll get these little bits out of the way. Okay. There we go. You can use your this guy, whatever it's called. All right, so let's see how this is shaping up. Okay, so anyway, you'll notice I had you glue this all the way to the edge, but in fact, just pull it back and don't worry because you'll be covering this up. But you actually only want it to be as far as the book kind of meets. So there. So if you glued that down, I'm sorry, you should be able to lift it up. It's very hard to tell where to glue it to. In fact, you don't even need it to go at all on the front cover. But anyway, you should be able to peel it back quite easily. Just be careful so you're not ripping your paper. But that needs to kind of be to the edge of the spine so that when we tie it up, it will tie up nicely. Okay, so that's not a big deal. But in that being said, let's cover up this piece now. And I would like to use my Cars paper, but I want to mat this out again. So I know, I think we should have cut two of these when we did it the first time because I forgot the measurements. But so it's 6 by 4. Okay, perfect. So, oops, sorry about that, guys. I'm getting all flustered because I had to pull the ribbon back. All right, so that piece then is going to measure 5 3/4 by 3 3/4. So cutting down the mat by 3 3/4. Now you know why I do the design off camera, because it's a bit of a process. Sometimes it's a bit of trial and error, but maybe it's good for you to see a bit of that trial and error yourself. Okay, so I'm going to mat this here, and I want to use this car paper. Again, I love this car paper. I had a little piece of offcut, but it's too small. I guess I could actually use it with a trim on the side, so maybe we'll do that. Okay, let's do that. Let's do that. So I'm just going to put this over here. I'm going to cut down this piece. So that's going to be matted onto there. So this piece is going to be 5.5. Okay, so 5.5. And then I already had this as my leftover, but it is 3 inches, okay? So I'm going to stick that here. Okay, and then I'm going to use this little snowflake trim to fill in this space over here. So I'm going to stick this down first. And I just noticed that this is a little bit off kilter. So I'm just going to trim the edge. There we go. Sometimes you have to just realign things, and you don't really notice until you stick something else on. But I like that. Yes, that's what I'm going to do. So once you've cut out your first piece of mat, and mat this however you want, but if you're following along with me, we're going to use this little snowflake paper as the trim. You could also use a washi tape here too. That's another great idea. And ways to incorporate washi tape, that's another video I should do, because I'm always wondering and looking for ideas, because I have so much washi tape because it's cute, but then I don't end up using it that often. Okay, so now I need to just cover up this little bit, and I think that half an inch, yep, I'm going to trim half an inch off this snowflake paper, and then I will cut that down to 5.5. And I'm going to put this right there. Okay, so I'm just getting some glue on there. Stick this down. Okay. All right. I do like the way that looks. So I'm just going to bring my album back, and I'm going to layer this on top over here. Okay, just want to make sure I've got that nicely stuck on. Oh, I love it. I'm gonna peel this off. Well, I'll do it later. You guys don't have to watch me, but it will come off. I'm not worried. Okay. So far, our album is looking gorgeous, I have to say. Let's pretend it's almost done. I'm going to tie this ribbon. We'll have to fix it and trim it later. But anyways, you're getting the idea of what we're going to end up with here. Correct. I love it. So far, so good. Okay, now we can think about this side's patterned paper. And I'm going to use the snowflake paper. But again, I want to mat it out. So this one is going to be this one's going to be 5 3/4 by 4 1/4. So 5 3/4 by 4 1/4 is your black cardstock. So 5 3/4, 5 3/4. Oh, it is by 4 1/4. Okay, so that's your mat. And then your patterned paper will be 5.5 by 4. 5.5 by 4, and you'll mat that on here. Let's do that. Oops. Okay, I like to turn it the other way when I do this because somehow I always have glue on my fingers and then I make a mess. Okay, so I'm just going to open this up so it's easier to work with, and that's going to go right here. Now I'm thinking about, I'm not sure what I'm putting on the front cover yet, and I haven't pulled out paper, like if I want to embellish this with something from the paper pad. Now is the time to do it before I start using my pattern paper up in the rest of the album. Okay, so here's where we're at, and yes, I probably will want to put something on here. So I'm going to go back in here. I love this one, but it's kind of tiny. And I noticed in the pad there's some 4x4 sheets. So I think I'm going to use one of these. So I'm going to pull that out now so that I do not accidentally use it as I'm decorating. Okay, so all we've got left here is now for the outside is to do the back. And we know that the base this piece measures 6 by 5.5. So our black mat will be 5 3/4 by 5 1/4. So 5 3/4 by 5 1/4 for your black mat. So 5 3/4 by 5 1/4. Okay, so that's going to be your black mat. And then for your patterned paper, I think I said I wanted the snowflakes back here as well. So this will be 5.5 by 5. So 5.5 by 5 should give you a piece that lets you have a 1/8 of mat, 1/8 of an inch of matting all around. Okay, so we can now stick this on. And just center that so it's even all around. Okay, bring back my album. And just going to open it up so I can have the back lay flat. And this will go here, right on top of the ribbon. I'm just thinking, I didn't put tape down. It's okay, but you can use double-sided tape here too, like we did for the side pieces. Although, I'm quite sure this is going to be fine. Okay, so now we've got back on. We can even, I think I'm going to use this one. Let's trim this one down, this little gift tag looking thing. And you can use this on the back to put your name or created by, or maybe a gift tag if you're giving it to somebody. I'm just trimming it down. But this is what I mean about the kind of creative process. I didn't really think of that until now as I looked at it, but I'm definitely going to put this back here. So, and I think, should I mat it? I think so. I'm going to mat that, but I think I'm going to mat it on, let me see. Yes, I will mat it on the black. So sometimes when I am matting, all I do is I stick down this piece first and then I cut around it. So in this case, like I'm just going to stick this down in the corner here, and I will cut around these two edges to get the mat. So anyways, it involves not having to measure anything, and I just sort of eyeball where I'm cutting. Okay, so there's a little piece to use for down here. I'll just put that right on the back, and you can sign it or whatever you want, or you can skip it all together. But if you're following along with the same paper, I think this looks really cute. You can even put the year on the back if you're keeping it for yourself, whatever. Oh, here we go. Okay, So let's close this guy up. And see how we are looking. Oh, so cute. Okay, very cute. So now we can start to decorate the inside. We'll deal with the ribbon trimming later. And once I've decorated the inside, that's when I'll trim down the ribbon, because this could get a little bit thicker as I put my pattern papers in. So, okay. So now what you're going to do is really just pick the papers that you like and start decorating. So for this front page, I probably want to do something on this front page in terms of an embellishment or some little card in the middle. Like this will sort of serve as my title page. So I'm looking at the back of this paper here, which I just love, but I thought, oh, I could use some of these squares, but then I remember I love this too. So this is what I'm going to use in the center here, and probably put some embellishments around it. But let's start with cutting out that little piece so I have it ready to go. And I'm starting with this because I know I want to use this. So it's important to me now that this is sort of, I start with this and then I choose my patterned paper according to what goes with this. So if the favorite thing is your pattern, then choose your pattern first and then find the embellishment that matches. So in this case, I love this little card, so I want to make sure that it's used here. So I'm going to make sure I pull it out, and then I will choose patterned paper that coordinates best with it. I'm also thinking I'm going to pop this up. So you can either use pop dots, or you can just layer thick chipboard underneath also to get it to pop up. So you don't need to have necessarily the pop dots or the foam tape. You can improvise 100,000%. Okay, so that's going to go up here. I just move some of these things out of the way. And now I'm just going to flip through my album and see, like, well, what's the paper that would best coordinate? I'm literally, oh, I love this Christmas tree, would look really cute, I think. Yeah, we could do that. We could do that. I don't even think that there's something in here that doesn't work. Oh, I like this just because it's bright. It sort of brightens it up a bit. So I think I'm going to go with this one and that in the center. And I'm going to mat this on some black cardstock too. So these pieces, if we just take out the ruler, these pieces are, oh goodness, 5 1/4 by 5 3/4. Okay. 5 1/4 by 5 3/4 is this size. So my mat, and I don't think we're going to mat all the pages, but I want to mat this one. It's the cover page. So my mat will be 5 1/2 by 5. So 5 1/2 by 5 is my mat size. So that will sit right on here. And then so my patterned paper will be 5 1/4 by 4 3/4. 1/4 by 4 3/4. There we go. So that sits up here. Okay, I'm going to move this over and we can put this together. I'm just using glue. If you're inking, I would ink the edges of this patterned paper now before sticking it on, obviously. Okay, and that will sit right on there. Just going to open this up so I can let it lay flat. Okay. And then I'm going to pop this on top so it's raised. Okay, so I just went to get a couple of things to show you. So first of all, I had a piece of scrap chipboard. And so I said I want to pop this, but you can also pop it with layers of chipboard. And I always save leftover chipboard for this purpose, and it's a great way to save, and you don't have to use foam dots or anything like that. So that's the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a couple of pieces, 2 pieces, that will just sort of sit on the back of this to pop it up. So it's just, I find, you know, I try to save where I can when I'm scrapbooking. Like most scrappers, I know we have too many supplies and paper, but you know, as far as consumables go, like the pop dots and the foam tape is great, and I do have it, but this works really well in this application, and so why not? Why wouldn't you? So that's, you can see it sits up nicely, and I actually like it because it works better than the foam tape. Like, I normally actually would have covered a bit more surface because it will never sag anywhere. It just gives it actually more stability for cards. Okay, I also found some of this in my stash, which is like a burlap sticky ribbon. So I'm going to use it here. I don't want to waste it. So I'm just going to cut off enough to go from this edge, and so it appears to go under this card, and then the same for the other side. So if you have this, great. If you don't need it. But I just, whenever I create something, I do go to look at my stash, and you know, this piece is not that big, but I just had it saved for something, and the day is here. So I'm just going to also, before I stick it down, I will center my book. So I'm centering it on my paper back here, so I can see kind of where is the middle, and it's right here. So I don't need to be crazy precise, but also don't want to be completely off. And since I'm using a gingham paper, it already has sort of this natural ruler for me. So just stick this one over here. That, perfect. And then we can just stick this right on top. Okay, just hold that for a second, make sure it's all straight. So just remember, if you're using chipboard in a project, or sometimes when you get your orders, like online orders come with a piece of chipboard to keep the paper flat, I always save those, and then they come in handy for stuff like this. So I got a really nice kind of lift on there. Close this up. So I can show you from the side. You see, oh, I don't know if you can see it. Anyway, there you go. So I love the way that looks when you open the album. It's sort of like the introduction to what's to come later on. Okay, so you can see now what I mean about needing the 2 inches. It's already starting to kind of pile up. So we're not having this, it's not sinking into itself. And as we add more to the center pieces, this will continue to get bigger. So let's continue decorating. I'm going to probably, sometimes I'll mat this with the black and sometimes I won't. But if you do, what do you need to know is the size of the mat that you're going to cut is going to be 5. So 5.5 by 5 is the size of the mat. If you're going to use a mat, if you're not going to use a mat, then that's the size you will cut your pattern paper. So 5.5 by 5. So I'm going to go ahead and actually going to decorate this notched page, which is the envelope. So let's just cut down. I do need to mat this, so I'm going to cut a piece that's 5.5 by 5. So there's my 5.5 by 5. And then I'm going to cut down my patterned paper to 1/4 of an inch less. I'm sure you've picked up on that by now, but that means we'll have 5.25 by 4 3/4. Okay, so 5.25 by 4 3/4. Okay, so that's my matting page. So that should fit and give me my nice trim all around. But before I do that, I'm going to cut out my notch. So I'm going to line up the top of these pages because they both need the notch cut into them, and the notch has to be in the exact same spot. So I'm lining up the top edges before I cut my notch out. And it could get tricky because you already have sort of your notch cut out here. And you want to make sure it's in the same spot. So let me just move this over and show you what I'm going to do. So I'm going to I'm going to line this up where I want it to go. Okay, so I want to make sure that this is the center and that's where my notch goes in. And then I'm going to literally slide this down. So you can do this different ways, like you can use a ruler and try to measure it all out. But I'm going to do it like this because I'm all about easy. And it should work out to be in the right spot. Okay, so this is perfect because that's my mat. So I just slide that down and then this goes on here. And it's very close to perfect. Could have been a little bit to the edge. So there we go. So this is how that will look once it's all matted. Okay, so let's do the other side as another example so that we'll do the other side where we actually measure and put a little mark. Maybe we'll get a little more accurate. But all you want to do is make sure your notches are all lined up. Okay, another way to have done it, which we did not do, is to punch out your notch on all three pieces at the same time. Okay. But it's too late for that because we already punched out the notch on the craft paper before. But never fear, it's not a big deal. You can do this and it will be just as nice. Okay. So that's the top of this envelope. And I'm just going to flip it over and we're going to do the other side and we'll try to do it more accurately. Let's see if measuring with a ruler gets us to a better spot. Okay. So I'm going to grab another piece of my background cardstock. Right, now I need to cut out my patterned paper. So I'll choose another pattern, nothing too dark because we're matting it onto the black. And we're going to cut this down. Sorry, I just need to measure this again. Okay, so our patterned paper will be 5 1/4 by 4 3/4. There we go. And that's going to go on here, right? But I'm going to line up the top again. Okay, so I'm going to just be flush at the top. And this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this down here so that it is equidistant from each side. So that's where the placement's going to be. And now I know that this is the middle of my notch. So what I'm going to do is just draw a line down the center of that notch in pencil. So we can erase it later. Just far enough so that I can see how far to go into my little notch cutter here. Okay, so you can see I've drawn, can you see that? Oh goodness, I wonder if I turn on some light. Does that help? I can't even see it myself. Okay, there's a line here. You can see it extending. That's where I'm going to line up my notch cutter. So I'm centering it there. That's where the center of the notch will be, right on my pencil mark. And let's see if this method is better. So first I will glue this down. Looks good. And let's see. Okay, yes, so that does improve it a little bit, but honestly, not much. Anyway, it didn't take much longer, so I think that we will do that measuring for decorating pages and for these pocket pages. Okay, so cute. Going to flip this, fold it all up again. Okay, so now what is supposed to go in this page? Probably a nice big tag. So why don't we go ahead and create that piece to put in the pocket. So I'm going to use, again, my black cardstock. And I'm going to cut down, let's see, I think I'm going to cut a piece that is 5 inches. Like I want it to stick out of the top. So actually, yes, I'm going to make it about 5.5 inches by 4 inches. Okay. So 5.5 tall by 4.5 wide. 5.5 by 4.5. Okay. So before I start getting fancy on here, I'm going to make sure that size fits in my pocket easily, because remember I have the glue on the edges. You know what? I'm going to make that 4, cut off 1/2 inch. So 5.5 by 4. Okay, that's better. So 5.5 by 4, final decision on that. And I'm going to round the corners. Okay, and then we're going to cover that up with some patterned paper. I think I'll go with, what will I, oh, cover it up with these gnomes. Okay, so now you'll cut this out at 5 1/4 by 3 3 5 1/4 by 3 3/4. Five and a quarter. Oh yes, make sure you measure it. This one is directional, so your 5 1/4 is going to be, make sure that the gnomes will be up. So the height is 5 1/4, right? So 5 1/4 is my height by 3 3/4 is my width. Okay. Yes. And I'm going to round the corners of this. And we can mat that on here. And you can make this into a little booklet if you cut a piece twice the size and fold it in half. So maybe we'll do that for the next one. We'll do something different for the next one, actually. I'll show you what we're going to do. Okay, so that's that, and that can go in the pocket. I'm going to leave the back plain because I probably put a photo on there. But I am going to grab my hole punch, and I'm going to punch a hole up here in the center. All right, and then we can put some ribbon through there, and it can be any ribbon, doesn't have to be the one that you used. So I've got a bit of this, I don't know, some kind of string looking stuff. And I'm going to use this because I like the color. And I have it here handy. So just do this and pull it through. Okay, so that will fit into this pocket here. Yeah, I love that. It's very cute. Okay, let us work on the insert for the other pocket. So this one's going to be a little bit different. Okay, I'm just trying to see something here. All right, so what are we going to do with this one is make like a flap that comes down over the page. Well, anyway, it doesn't make any sense as I speak about it, but it will make sense as we start to do it. So I'm just measuring this to see, it's 5.5. Okay, so we're going to cut this piece of cardstock down to 4 by 11, okay? Or 11 by 4. Now let's cut down our 4-inch piece first. 4, and then cut that down to 11. Okay. And then you're going to score it at 5.5. So score this piece at 5.5 along, put the long side down obviously, and we're just going to score it in half. Okay, so what you've got is just a little folder that flips open and shut. Okay, and then how this is going to work is it's just going to tuck into your next pocket page that you made, because you made 2 of them. So it's going to tuck in here, maybe stick out a little bit at the top. Okay, and then you can decide whether you want this flap to be on this side or, oops, goodness, this can get very confusing, or on the back side. Really doesn't matter, just how you want your book to look when you're flipping through, but that's what we're going to do there. Okay, so you can go ahead and decorate that however you want. I am going to show you something now. Not terribly earth-shattering, but you might notice I've tucked away all these offcuts are sitting up here. And that's because I want to use them for this middle piece, these little blank spaces in the waterfall. So I'm going to need, not one here, but I need 1, 2, 3. So these are 1/2-inch size. So all I'm going to do is cut down a piece that is just slightly less than 1/2 inch, because I want, I don't want it to go edge to edge, if you know what I mean, right? So I'm going to cut this down slightly 1/2 inch, slightly less than 1/2 inch rather. And then we're going to mark it. We're going to make sure there's about 1/8 inch trim on each side. So I'm just marking with a pencil where I need to cut. And give me a second and I will tell you that measurement. So that's going to be at 3 inches. Okay, so slightly under 1/2 and then 3 inches long. And then you're just going to stick those into this space to cover it up. This is optional, you don't have to do it, but I do like the way it looks. So it just kind of makes it neater. So 3 inches by just under 1/2. So you can use all your kind of little offshoots for that. So don't throw anything away until we're completely done, basically. And you should be able to get 2 pieces from one strip, obviously. Okay, so we can put this one, maybe we'll put this one here. And one more. Okay, so next thing is to take a look at, let's cover up the inside of the spine. So these pieces. Okay. Okay, so for these pieces, you're going to cut a piece that's 5 3/4 by 1 3/4. So I'm going to see if this fits the bill. I don't think so. I think it's a little small. Yeah. So 5 3/4 by 1 3/4. And you're going to cut 2 of them because we need them for here. And I think I'm going to use the plaid because I like the way it will coordinate when I open the book. So let me just pull out another piece of the green plaid. Go. And I will cut that down 5 3/4 to by 1 3/4. One and 2. Okay, and then we can just glue these down. Now here again, you can mat these on black. If you do, then cut your mat first to the size I just quoted, and then cut these pieces 1/4 inch smaller all the way around. Okay, so I'm going to just glue these down. I'm not going to bother with a mat. Okay, we'll just do this side. There. So when we open the book, we've got these nice coordinating pieces. Okay, now I'm going to do this side. So this side, if I grab my ruler, again, it's 6 inches tall and we've got 4.5 inches wide. So I'm going to use a mat, I think, and I'm going to cut it to 5 3/4 by 4 1/4. So 5 3/4 by 4 1/4. Okay, so that's here. And then my pattern paper will be 5 1/2 by 4. 5 1/2 by 4. And we can mat this onto here. Now, I have to decide which side I like better. So, depends if you like it bright. I'm probably going to put pictures on here, so it really doesn't matter. So I think I'm going to go with the plaid because I like the way it coordinates with this side. So I think I'm going to stop here and sort of, you can pause the video maybe. I'm going to decorate the rest off camera, but if I do anything special, I'm going to come back and show you. So for now, all I'm going to do is go ahead and cover all of the cardstock, all of the craft pieces with patterned paper. And like I said, you can choose to mat them like this. If you do, you'll need more black cardstock than I said in the beginning. You'll need a few sheets. I think I said you only need 2 or 3. But if you plan to mat the whole thing, then I would go ahead and You'll need some more paper. You don't have to mat it though. It's very optional. So, and you can see the difference here. So I did not mat this, and I did mat this. And you know what? I don't actually, in hindsight, I was thinking, oh, maybe I should mat these too. But honestly, I'm not fussed, and I like the way that looks too. So the thing about the matting is it does make these pages thicker, but we do have plenty of space for that, and still space for your photos. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and keep decorating in here from the sheets in the pad, and then we can come back and we'll look at any extra tips and the final product. Okay, you can tell when we're getting near the end because my workspace starts to get a little bit crazy. So I'm just clearing some stuff out of the way, and I want to show you what I've done so far. So as I said, to pause, kind of decorate your pages. So I went ahead and I decorated all of the rest of the flaps. So we have this very cute, the papers are just adorable. You cannot go wrong with whatever you did. When I could, I tried to put a dark and a light next to each other so it didn't just look all dark. You'll see on the other side, I started running short on patterns, so I couldn't quite do that. But that's kind of all I've done so far, is to decorate these pages. And basically the whole book is now matted, and these pieces are all done. So they're ready to add photos. You don't actually have to do anything else. But if you remember, we made this little page to stick in here into the pocket. And all I did was cover it with patterned paper, and then I took one of the little 2x2 squares and just matted it on black and sort of stuck it, not all the way, but just with about a half 3/4 of an inch hanging off, just for some visual interest. So I'm going to tuck that into here, see how it looks. Perfect. I love that. I love when you close the book and there's sort of bits of interest sticking out, which is what this, creating these little pockets gives you. So when we close it up, we've got those little bits sticking out the top. Okay, now, I love that. Okay, so let's talk about the front cover for a second. Oops. So I still have to embellish this front cover. I hardly have anything left. I'm very proud of myself. Obviously I have some of the offcuts from the side of the pages. They're just a bunch of strips. And I'll probably make a card or even a scrapbook layout with these. So don't throw them away. They will probably come in handy for something. Plus, we're not finished decorating it, so you might need a little bit for what we're going to do now. So what I've decided is this is basically all I've got left, and those little offshoots. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to use this Merry and Bright card as my topper on the cover, and I'm going to back it in black and patterned paper, and I don't have too much choice, so I'm going to have to use this patterned paper, so I'll probably just flip over and use the other side. So let's just go ahead and cut that out. We'll cut this down. Actually, so because I'm going to mat it on this patterned paper, and if I cut this exactly in half, I won't have enough to mat it. So I'm going to cut this square a little smaller, probably about, let's go 1/8 of an inch smaller on each side, and than it needs to be. So just on the sides, we're going to cut down about 1/8 of an inch. Okay, top and bottom. So let me just get this little card out of here so I can continue with my decorating. Okay, so that is that. That's going to be on my front cover, and I want to mat it onto this holly paper, just very thin trim all around, and then on black. So this is just so you can see. So we have sort of a multi-layered effect happening, and then that'll go on the front cover. And I'm also going to pop this up with some chipboard. Okay, so let's go ahead, and I'm going to just do it this way where I'm not measuring. I'm just going to glue this down, and then I'm going to trim around it for the matte piece. So as luck would have it, this piece is actually wide, the right width. So I just need to trim down this one side. Okay, so there's that. And now I want to mat that onto the black. Very, very thin. So this actually, I just need to take a little sliver off of this. Okay. So you can decide how thick of a matte trim you want, but I like it to be very thin. In this case, I'm just going to have it, see that? Not much there. Just enough to help it pop out, but not too much. So I would say it's even less than 1/8 of an inch, but you can do this to your preference. And truth be told, partly why I'm doing this is that that's the size of this scrap of paper I found, and I want to use it. Okay, perfect. Okay, so there's what's going to go on the front cover. Just make some room. So that's going to go here, and I want to pop it up. Okay, and we could also think about putting sort of a trim underneath so that it looks like a ribbon is there, something like that. We already have a ribbon, but actually I like the way that looks. So I'm going to cut this down. I'm just going to put it in the middle, and then I'm going to just grab my pencil and mark out where I need to cut this, which is just to the edge of this pattern paper. Okay. And you'll notice the hole is there, but that's fine because once I get this on top, it will be covered up. So no sense in throwing that out. And this is what I mean about don't throw anything away of your scraps until you're totally finished, because they could come in handy. So that will go here. All right, and then this will just sit on top like so. So let's glue this piece down. Okay, right about center that. And now for this piece, I'm going to grab some more of my leftover chipboard. I'm going to just cut this piece in half. It will do a good job of covering the back. Okay, so I did put it in my trimmer, and I'll just finish cutting it. It will use up your blade, and I just did this because my blade's pretty old. It's time to replace it, so that's okay. But if you're a fresh new blade, you might want to just cut your chipboard either with a guillotine if you have one, or just use a pair of scissors. So I'm just piling up this chipboard here so that I've made a bit of a platform. And now I can glue this right down to the front. Center this up and down and all around. Looking good. Okay, I'm just going to hold that there for a second. There's our front cover. Now I've got some other little bits, and I actually think I'm going to fussy cut these. So I'm trying to get maximum usage out of my paper pad, as you can see. All I've got left now is this piece as a whole, 6 by 6, and then of course all the little cutoffs that we talked about. So I'm going to cut out both of these pieces. I'm just going to fussy cut around. I'm not going to go crazy being with, precision or anything, because I'm just going to stick these randomly somewhere in this book. We'll see in a minute. But I'm just trying to show you how to get sort of the maximum usage out of these pads. And while, if you like to buy the matching ephemera, by all means do so. But before that, maybe try to create some yourself from the pad and from the papers. You can totally do it. Definitely save you some dollars there to spend somewhere else. So I don't know. I don't think I'm putting that there, but just to show you that we can definitely use up these little pieces. If I don't, I don't really have a use for a 2 by 2 square. So that doesn't mean these are garbage. It just means maybe I can repurpose them. So, and I'm sure I will find a spot for these somewhere in this little album. There we go. So that was easy and quick. Fussy cutting doesn't have to be a big project or anything. So if I come into the album, I can think about placing these anywhere, really, I like. Like, they're just so cute. So I could put something up in this corner. Maybe I'll stick this in the corner. And I'm going to do, I want to show you, I'm only going to put glue sort of on the edge and the top, because when I come in here with a photo, I want to be able to slide the photo underneath in case I have to. I don't want this to be in my way. So I'm only gluing it, I'm leaving it unglued down on this side. Okay, and then we've got this little guy, and I don't think he really goes there, but here, maybe here, anywhere. But again, we're only going to glue down one side so that he doesn't interfere with whatever I'm going to put on this page. Okay, now we can take a look at what's left. I still have a couple of squares left here. I've got 4 squares, so either you can use them inside the album on some of these pages. So let's say I don't really need all of these pages to have photos. Some of them I just want to have some embellishment on. So let's say somewhere over here in the back side, doesn't really matter, I want to do something. So maybe it's here, maybe it's on this last page. Maybe on this last page what I want to do is create a little space for some journaling. And so let's do that. Let me show you how to do that. So what we're going to do is cut these 2 pieces. We're just going to cut across the center, okay? Don't cut these apart. So let's cut across the center here. Okay, and just fold this in half. You can score it too first if you like. We're just going to fold this in half. And I want to create a mat around it. So I'm just going to grab some of my black cardstock here and see if there's something in my scraps that can fit. And there is. Okay, so I'm going to mat. So I'm just going to stick the back of this onto here. All right, so there's my mat for that. Right, and you can cut it around this like I showed you. All right, and so I've made a little booklet, and I can either leave it with the patterned paper or I can cover this with some white paper so we have a spot to do some journaling. So I'm going to stick that down, but before I do, I think just to create sort of some cohesiveness, I'm going to put this looking like a belly band maybe across the middle here, just because it's pretty. And I have this extra strip just lying around. Okay, you can also, if you like, you can put a pocket back here. So I'm doing this journal card thing for now. And because it's gingham and it's lined, I can get away with doing that. So I'm going to stick this down in the center, like that. Okay, and now I can put my journaling card down here. So you can write a little note, whatever you like. Okay, lovely. So that's that. Now what else do I have left that I can use up? Oh, not a lot, guys, not a lot. I do want to put something here, probably some patterned paper, or maybe just a white mat. We could just put a white mat over here. We don't need to cover every square inch with patterned paper. So I think probably I'll just mat this out in a piece of white, or I can put this back here. This is all I've got left. Now I'm just going to double check. Do I need to put that anywhere else? No, I have this Deck the Halls, but it's the same. So I don't know if I want to use it, but you can definitely add this to a page. So actually, let me show you something you can do with this that's kind of fun. So I'm going to go in this way. And I don't want to stick, I'm not going to necessarily stick pictures everywhere. Maybe I want to make a pocket. So what we're going to do with this is just stick it down as though it were a pocket right here. So I'm going to just get my corner rounder and round out this outside top corner. Okay, so it looks kind of pocket-like. And all you're going to do is put glue along this side and this side, on the back, of course. So along the two straight sides, you'll just put a bead of glue here and here. And then go ahead and stick this down. And suddenly, you have a pocket. And then you can put photos in there, so you can see it better this way. Okay. And I'm going to stop there because, actually no, I have one more idea to show you. So in here, let's say, okay, well, here's got my little notes. Maybe I'll put a photo here. Maybe I'll put some photos here. What am I going to do on this side? I don't know. Maybe I need a belly band somewhere, another way to hold pictures in. So I'm going to put a belly band. I think I'm going to put one right here. So go into your stash of papers that you've got left over. And this is when you can have fun layering different patterns. So I'm going to look for a page that matches because I like these papers. So I'm trying to find a spot where I want to do this. Maybe this back page, actually. Yeah, I think we'll do it here. So I'm going to make a belly band right here. And it's just going to run from the top to the bottom of this card. And I'm going to cut it about here. Yay thick. Let's see. Okay, so it's going to go like this. And I need to trim off some from the top. So just cut that off. Okay, and I'll stick that here. And that's a cute little belly band. So you're just going to put glue on the two ends. And then you can tuck a photo underneath this or two. Okay, so we'll pretend this is a photo. They'll go in there, or notes, whatever you'd like to do. Okay, so in the meantime though, let me make some, I'm going to make some 3x4 photo mats to put in there. So I'm just going to keep using my patterned paper until I've used it all up. So grab your black cardstock again. I'm trying to see if I have any scraps. One. Okay, I'm going to make, I'm going to do a 3x4 photo mat. So I'm actually going to measure it at 3 1/4 by 4 1/4. 4 1/4. Okay, this one's already 4 1/4. Okay, and then I'm going to cover it up with some patterned paper here. Or else I don't think that'll work. That's too small. Okay, so I'm just going to cut out some patterned paper to mat this down. Oops. Oh, I made a mistake. Anyways, but you get the idea. So we're just making a little photo mat. And you can make, I would say, not more than 3 of these to tuck under the belly band that we just created. Okay. So let's just put that there like that. And I really think that's quite enough for this album. You could do more. You can add another belly band. You can create a little folder, just tuck under it so it's like a little booklet opening up. to add more photos, but I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. So let's tie it all together and trim the ribbon and then do a walkthrough. Okay, so I'm very, very happy with how this turned out. I still have to take this little bit of glue where I glued this earlier. I haven't cleaned it up yet, but I will. Oh my. It's getting late and I'm clearly having issues. All right, something like that. Okay, so there's our finished album. I'm going to trim this now on an angle, now that I know how long I need it to be. I'm going to use make sure you're using very sharp scissors. Okay, there it is. Okay, let's do a little walkthrough. Let me just clear up some of this stuff so we're not looking at the craft supplies. All right, so let's put on some embellishments. So I've got these little dewdrops, they're called. So I think I'm going to put some of those on here too, just for fun. So maybe I'll do them. I'm going to put 3 down here. So I'm just going to put 3 little drops of glue where I want those to be. And I cannot find, I have a very good tool somewhere. Here it is. All right, this is supposed to let me pick these guys up and put them on here, except they have to be facing the right way. All right, there we go. Okay, don't worry about the glue. It will dry clear. And I did put a little bit, that was a bit too much, but so just use a drop accordingly to what you need. There we go. That'll dry clear. It'll look nicer in a minute. But very cute. And you can just kind of add bling throughout your book. So I am going to have this standing up somewhere so it will look beautiful. Maybe on my mantle. Somewhere anyways. So let's pretend we're going to go through this, except I better be careful as I just glued those on. So there's our sides, as you know. Okay, open it up. We've got our waterfall. Cute. And then the middle section, I'm going to prop this up because I don't want those little things I just glued on to go somewhere where I don't want them to go. Okay. So this is the pocket page. This is also pocket, so this comes right out, so you can put photos on there. This is also a pocket, so we should probably, let's put a card in there, because I just noticed I have this left. And I pretty much have destroyed this kit in terms of, destroyed in a good way, like I've completely used it all up, completely. So I'm going to stick this in there. I love when I use up a kit. Well, it's not a kit, but I love when I use up the pad. Okay, so we can tuck that in there. Cute. We go the other way. Amazing. That is amazing. I love this little album. I hope you guys loved it too. Please Leave me comments if you have any questions or you just want to tell me you love it, whatever you want to say. I do read all the comments. I really appreciate you guys watching my channel. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and turn on the little bell so that you know when I load some new content. I'm hoping to do one more thing before Christmas, and then I'll be switching to winter theme. But anyways, I hope you guys had fun following along with me, and I hope to see you soon. Have an awesome evening, day, whatever time it is in your neck of the woods. Love you guys. Bye now.